Film Club.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Film Club. I'm one of your hosts, Andy Harrison, and with me, as always, it's Andy Donaldson.
Splendid.
Every week in Film Club, we invite you along to watch a film with us, and this week, Nathan Turville reminded us that we have not done The Great Escape.
The Great Escape is amazing, right? The Great Escape tells the story of a bunch of prisoners from all different nationalities, and it's about them, the notorious prisoners that always run away, always escape. So they put them all in one big super camp. It's run by Commandant von Luger. And von Luger is this Luftwaffe general who's like, you know, this is my camp, you're going to obey the rules. But at the same time, like, I'm not SS, I'm not Nazi, I'm not the other one. It's about them working together with Big X, who is Richard Attenborough, and make an escape, which is 3 tunnels, and of how they tried to get 250 prisoners. True story, by the way. 250 prisoners to escape from the camp. And unfortunately, those who've seen the end, you know, spoilers there, not everyone made it. This is in my top 10. It still continues to be in my top 10. I'm so glad we're reviewing it, because this is a film for me that it just kind of captures a lot of emotion. Yes, it is a war film. It's an epic. It's an ensemble cast. I mean, it's really good, diverse kind of nationalities. It's like an English-based camp. You know, you've got a lot of English officers, but then you've got the Americans. You know, you've got James Garner and Steve McQueen. You've got Scottish, American, Canadian, Australian, Polish. But even what I like about it is it caters in some cases to a German audience, because you have not necessarily the typical like kind of thing in war films. You had like the Nazis, and there was like the evil guys. In this, I would argue that von Luger is seen as an ethical antagonist. You got this range of actors, range of characters, and you got this range of genre in this film. You know, you got action, you got music, you got the humor bits where he jumps on the bed, he falls down. You got the moonshine, he goes wow, like that. And it's just really, really all brings it together to this incredibly well paced and incredibly well acted film. I don't have anything bad to say about this film. For me, it's perfect.
Yeah, so I completely agree with that. I think that it's a stunning film that I find it a little bit amusing. We almost forgot that we hadn't done it. I think we forgot we hadn't done it for a couple of reasons. So
Chicken Run.
Yeah, first off, we did Chicken Run, which ironically, like we kind of forgot that I think we hadn't done Great Escape because we'd done Chicken Run, which obviously is big sort of homage, pastiche to the film. But we also haven't seen John Sturges for a long time. John Sturges, the last time I think we saw him in a film club was Magnificent Seven. Some similar cast in there as well. It was nice, you know, it's nice seeing some of those guys.
Charles Bronson, yeah.
As soon as The Great Escape comes up, my mind immediately thinks, is there any film that is more Andy Donaldson than this film? Because it's, in my head, this is quintessentially your film, because it's based around, conceptually, obviously it's based around not just World War II soldiers, which already you obviously had that sort of big interest in it, but specifically it's RAF soldiers.
Yep, well played. You know me well.
Being held by the Luftwaffe and almost having this bigger evil that's going on in the Gestapo. So you get this lovely
Gestapo. I couldn't think of the name. Yeah,
you get this lovely tiered system where like the bad guys aren't necessarily the bad guys. Like even the guy running the prison, he says very clearly early on that he doesn't want it to be necessarily a bad place for them, but they are problems. You know, they're causing a lot of problems for them and for the war. And all he wants to do is allow everybody involved to sit out the war comfortably. That's a great line, because it sets the tone for what The Great Escape is. Like The Great Escape, it's not trying to be a dramatic war film that talks about the tragedy and the horror of war in any respect, really. It's like World War II prisoner of war camp if it was done by Tom and Jerry. You know, it's this constant game of cat and mouse where it's like it's almost this like wink and a nod, and it's like a fun situation. You know, the camp itself is almost set out like a bloody American summer camp, and obviously it's not a pleasant place to be, but they're all all given bunk beds, and they're all sort of allowed space, and the thing is never really meant to make you think about the reality of war. Instead, what it is it's a charming conceit. And it's a charming conceit that presents you with this weird, sort of eclectic range of characters and strange people who all have their own little quirks, all get their own little moments, and they're all building towards like one primary A plot. For me, it culminates, obviously, I think for most people, it culminates at the actual escape. And I think at that point, you hit the elation. For my personal taste, as a real minor issue, I think that it takes a little too much time post-escape to wrap up the film. But I mean, in terms of pacing out a 3-hour film, it does a hell of a great job.
I can't see where you're coming from, to tell the truth, but I can understand that you might find when they actually escape that how that that kind of leads. But I love how, like, for me, this film tells the story of individuals, but also tells the story of a collective. The collective is, as you said, the A plot of the film, but the individuals is their stories throughout the film. As you said, you've got Ives and Steve McQueen's character, who Hilt has his own way with his motorbike. Obviously, as I said, this Steve McQueen film, you've got to have some sort of auto kind of chase, whether it's a car, motorbike, and we all know that Steve McQueen does his own stunts. That stunt over the wall, amazing.
It's so good. And
such a good
iconic
iconic
subject
scene.
to Steve McQueen for a second, and he builds a lot of iconography into this film. Like the whole throwing the baseball against the wall while they're in prison became iconic. Yeah, obviously it's sort of iterated on in Chicken Run, but he also does a great job in terms of like what his character is used to represent, because he is basically used to represent that sort of unshakable optimism in the characters and the ability to just keep going regardless of the insurmountable odds that are against you. It's this sort of way of like demonstrating to the Germans that you can't break the spirit.
Yep, 100%. Which contrasts really well with Ives, whose spirit is on the edge, and they reference that multiple times. And obviously, he has his downfall when they find the tunnel, and he's like, "I can't take it anymore." It's a lovely but harrowing contrast. That to contrast McQueen with the other Yankee is the one with James Garner, who, by the way, he feels very Han Solo in this. I love it. I love his character because he's straight away he's the scrounge. They build him up. He's like, he gets all this stuff. He builds the relationship with the German officer,
with Werner.
officer. With Donald Pleasance, who plays. Again, I shouldn't have cost blast. Ironically, the forger becomes blind, and it's James Garner's character who, picks him up and said, "I'll look after him." So James Garner's character is Henley. Sorry, Henley. That's right. Now, the way they go across, and again, they have their on about post tunnel scene. The way they go across, and they have like their flight scene. Unfortunately, it doesn't end well for them anyway. Characters is Danny, played by Charles Bronson. The issues in the tunnel, they've been building it. He's scared. He's got claustrophobia. He fights through that fear. He eventually gets through, and they have this lovely scene where they're on the river going down. They eventually make it. It's that lovely scene where out of the 50 who didn't make it, at least some did. 25, arguably did. It's you have what's his name with the mustache, I should know this again, who's singing, and then whilst they're singing, they're doing obviously building the tunnels in the background. Everyone's got their own system.
Everybody working together is such a great thing to see, because we sort of saw this concept a little bit in a later film, Escape from Alcatraz.
Yes,
Escape from Alcatraz, it takes the same sort of concept, but it's really about like 2 or 3 people all come up with the same idea. And obviously in Shawshank Redemption, you've got the same sort of idea, people breaking out of somewhere that's imprisoning them. But often in those films, it's kind of about individuals working within a system to try and get what they want. Whereas what I love about The Great Escape is that it's this big ensemble where everybody's working towards the same goal, this same common goal, and to have such a big ensemble cast, and yet to still make sure that everybody gets all these wonderful little character moments. There's no one character, I don't think, that turns up in this film without being given a little bit of a highlight, a little bit of a spotlight.
They go out their own way, their own little like kind of niche like packs to work together. A really good example is where the Americans come together to celebrate Independence Day, and they make moonshine. Again, that really funny scene.
We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Elmer Bernstein, because Elmer Bernstein did the music for this film.
Yep, that iconic track.
Like, how many times have you heard that used? How many times have you heard that iterated on? Like, oh my god, it's everywhere. You can I remember the first time I watched The Great Escape, I had never seen The Great Escape before, but I knew that music instantly.
Absolutely.
Because it's everywhere.
Absolutely.
He's great, and we actually didn't mention him last time he came up, because apparently Elmer Bernstein also did the music for Animal House, To Kill a Mockingbird. He did it for The Magnificent Seven.
He did Ghostbusters.
He did Ghostbusters with Prince.
That's what I mean. I struggle to find a bad thing about this film. For me, it's a 10 out of 10. It deserves to be in the top 10 list, and it deserves to be praised and just gush about because it's so good.
Love
and
it.
you won't find a film around that time that just you won't find many films around that time that fill with that amount of like kind of passion, especially film lovers. Like I would struggle to find someone who dislikes this film.
And it's a film that constantly comes up in terms of watching it around the Christmas period. It's just there's a certain tone and atmosphere about it that's perfect for it. So if anybody out there is looking for a little bit of a Christmas recommendation over the next couple of weeks, please go and watch The Great Escape if you've never seen it. If you have seen it, go watch it again. It's wonderful. But anyway, Andy and I will be back once again next week because we're going to do our own very special Christmas episode where we're going to take a look at one of my favourite Christmas films, if not my absolute favourite. It's time for Gremlins.
It's been a while, Andy. I'm looking forward to this.
I cannot wait. Until then, get watching. Don't eat after midnight.
Take care.